Okay, I'm Lisa Arbues, and I teach Spanish, and I also chair the Department of World Languages at the high school. And I have been familiar with this program LiveMocha for about 4 years now. In fact, I think it's just been around for about 4 years. LiveMocha is somewhat of a cross between something like Rosetta Stone and a social networking program like Facebook. In fact, it looks a lot, the interface looks very much like Facebook, and so it's very student friendly. They like it a lot. Anyway, I discovered it first through my son, who was very motivated to teach himself languages and was using it for that. And there are something like, now I should know this, but let's say 40 different languages that people can study through LiveMocha. There are millions of people around the world using LiveMocha. I think it's very recent that schools are starting to use it with their students. We felt that it could be a really wonderful tool to increase students' contact with the language outside of the classroom and to work on their proficiency with native speakers around the world. It would probably take a long time to describe in detail how LiveMocha works, but you've got to try to picture millions of people around the world who are all very motivated to learn languages, so motivated that in fact they are willing to help other people learn the language they speak in order to learn another language. So in other words, our students who may be trying to work on their French outside of class can be working on Rosetta Stone type activities on the website, but then they reach out to the cyber world and send out writing samples, speaking samples, and then people out there give them feedback on their work. And it's very exciting for most students. Things that we might be trying to get them to work on in class just are not nearly, it's not nearly so meaningful, the feedback we give, as the feedback that they might get from someone who's just out there in the cyber world, and they'll say, oh, profe, look, this person showed me that I really needed to write this way or to say this that way. And I think, okay, well, I've been saying that for a year, but now I'm glad that now that you're picking this up. And if they are so motivated and it seems appropriate, they can have language partners across the world. They can chat. The chat mode is really just an IMing and instant messaging, and that does not have to be with like an established partner. They can just, it'll sort of pop up. Would you like to chat with this person? They can have a little, if we're in the language lab, they can have a little discussion with somebody.
So there's always somebody out there you can chat with.
There's somebody out there to chat with all the time. We were very, very concerned in the beginning about whether we could use something like this in a high school environment, whether it would be appropriate to have students open that way to just the world. And it's still a little bit strange for us, but you have to imagine they're talking with people who are halfway across the world. It's not like they're in the next town and they're going to say, hey, do you want to meet at Starbucks? I mean, they'll just maybe get a message from someone saying, do you want to chat? And they can either say yes or no. We find, actually, I'm finding personally in my classes that my students are much more reticent than I am. I mean, they feel, we have a class of students who are already post-AP and they're doing a comparative literature course, and we want them to keep working on their language skills much more than we can keep them doing in class. So they're using LiveMocha. And students who are seniors, who are very mature and could so easily just accept a language partner. I was talking with a girl in class who had a suggested language partner who was a 20-year-old girl from Mexico, I think, and it seemed very appropriate to me. And I said, Molly, why don't you want to chat? Oh, I think it would be awkward. So they're a little uncomfortable with that still. I'd like to see students like that who are mature and really could take advantage of that, reach out more. Other students have been reaching out a little bit more and do have language partners. But we have students who are not only practicing and furthering their knowledge of the language they've studied, like Spanish, and they're learning Dutch because their families, they have grandparents who speak Dutch, or they're trying to learn Arabic. And so it's very exciting.
And so what do the kids write? Do they have a prompt?
Yes. Okay. So the way that works, there are two different ways that can work. They can be at the end of a lesson and be asked to do an assessment, and it can be a writing assessment. But also there's an opportunity outside of the lesson to simply click on practice, and practice can be speaking practice, writing practice, and there, it could be like flashcards and vocabulary practice. When it's writing practice, they'll get a bunch of prompts, and they pick a prompt, up pops, a little question, a little scenario, they write on the prompt, submit it, it goes out into cyberspace, and they'll get anywhere from maybe 4 different people give them feedback to 10 people give them feedback. One person might simply say, well done. Another person will take the time to copy and highlight every single mistake and correct every single thing. They have to get used to it. They have to get used to understanding. They have to wait for several, and so one person might pick up errors that another person doesn't. These are just people.
And one person might correct it incorrectly.
And they can happen.
Yeah.
And so they have to get used to that.
They kind of go on the premise that majority rules on that.
That's right. That's
and they will receive pieces of writing in English.
That is correct. Now,
from around the world.
Since we have, now if you are just an individual who wants to use LiveMocha, like many millions of people around the world who do not have very much money and don't have money to pay for it, you can finance it by correcting other people.
Oh.
That's why so many people around the world are partly why they're willing to correct all these things. They earn tokens for that. And they also get a chance to sort of rate each other. So in other words, if somebody corrects me and I feel like they haven't done a very good job, I can not give them any points or not very many points. Whereas someone who does a very good job and gives me great feedback, I can give them more points. And so on your profile, you'll see some people have loads of points as being good teachers, or loads of points as being good students. You can learn a lot about the people out there on their profile with these things. But at any rate, what we were saying about the correcting, our students do not have to correct anybody's English because we have a site license and we pay for it.
But
so
as
they
I've
don't need
seen,
to,
they really enjoy doing
and
that.
So they get asked, and we encourage them if they'd like to go ahead, and they learn a lot about language.
Absolutely.
They'll say to us, oh, I see this is wrong, but how do I explain it to this, to this person from France is asking me, why is this wrong? How do I explain that this is, so they
learn a lot about teaching language.
A lot about teaching, a lot about the structure of language, about what's different in the other language. When they reflect on that and when they see their mistakes writing English, they think, oh, no wonder when I try to write French, I'm doing this wrong.
Right. So LiveMocha is enrichment because you can't go in as a teacher and customize it.
We cannot customize it. That is correct. We do, with our site license, we do have what they call the learning, I'm trying to think now what are these initials, we have a console. So it's like a grade book. We do get their scores on the work they do. We can see how many lessons they've done. We can see their grades. And we can also we can actually click on their submissions. We can't click on their little quizzes, but they almost always get hundreds on those. I mean, if they try, if they really try and do them again, they can get very good grades on all the little quizzes and the lessons. But when we want to, then we can go and we can look at their submissions, their writing, their speaking, and we can click right on them. There they are. They do like a little speaking, send it out. Well, that it's right there. So we can click on it.
So if they do this throughout the year, you can see a progression.
Right.
That's wonderful.
Now, this is our first year. It's a pilot.
Right.
So we're learning.
But I talk to the kids, and they seem to really love it.
I think they really do love it. And I think that part of that is that self-motivation, that they're doing it for themselves. They're seeing their own progress.
And they're all doing something
and-
different. They can
right.
pick and
They can pick and
choose.
choose.
So when they have choice, they
like
really
choice.
enjoy that.
They like choice, and they love I think that's the interface too. That it looks like Facebook,
Exactly.
and they're very comfortable with it.
Great. Gracias,
So-
señora.
De nada.